Welcome everyone in this new video tutorial about the multiplayer combat editor. In this video we're going to view how you can use event dispatchers and the stat manager. So we're just going to open up our third person character or whatever actor you have which has a stat manager. We're going to drag and drop the stat manager. And then we're going to type in dispatch like this. And it's going to return several dispatchers, but we're not going to. You can actually the dispatchers I was showing you. You can also see them by right-clicking on your stat manager and going under that event and see them all. But we don't want. I'm not used to call them that way. For instance, if you put that, it's going to call that event. It's going to call that event whenever a stat gets modified. But I'm more used to doing it this way. So I'm going to type in assign, and it's actually going to give me a list of all the event dispatchers I can bind myself to, and these event dispatchers give me the possibility to react to game events related to stats. So for instance, we have onStat ready. This is called when all stats have been. So we don't want to call this. This is actually it should be under the system category. This is an event dispatchers I'm using to know where is the component initialized, and we don't want to see this in our feature folder or dispatcher folder at least. So I will hide this. So we have the stat updates dispatcher, which is basically your bread and butter dispatcher. If I'm clicking on this, it's going to call that event whenever a stat gets modified. And for instance, you can say that you can break that value, that this is a new pin we haven't met before. This is a stat update, and this is giving us a stat, its current value affected by modifiers and its maximum value affected by modifiers. And this is telling us what stats have been modified. So for instance, maybe you want to do something when the stat of this character is going to go down below a certain amount. So you can say, I want to check stat threshold, and you want to plug that in. You can get rid of the stat update. And you can say, for instance, when my character health goes below 50%, so this event is going to fire whenever a stat gets modified. And this is going to make sure you have the stat you are asking for in the percentage you are asking for. So this is the threshold in percentage. So from 0 to 100%. So if the stat you are asking for is between these values, it's going to return true, else it's going to return false or invalid stat. So for instance, you can set this, or you can also say, hey, I want to know when my experience goes exactly at 100, and this is going to fire true. But we have another dispatcher which gives us this. But if you want to set it up, you have to plug this somewhere. So maybe, do we have an event begin play there? I don't even remember if we do. No, we don't. So I know I can type in p-click, but I was sure we had one and I wanted to go there. But you have to call this at some point if you want that event to fire. So for instance, in your event begin play, you want to say, hey, whenever I have a stat update, if my experience is at 100%, I'm going to fire something like a level up event. But we have another stat dispatcher which gives us basically the same thing. I don't want to call in, I want to type in assign. So you also have unstat added, so that triggers basically when you call the node add stat to an actor. This is going to call the dispatcher. This is going to call anything you plug to the dispatcher. You also have unstat empty and unstat full, and this were the dispatcher I was talking about when I said we had better way to do what I did with the 100 checker. You can call unstat empty, and you can also call unstat full to know when a stat reached its maximum amount or went empty. And you of course need to say afterwards, hey, was the stat I was looking for was for experience, for instance, I'm binding myself to the stat manager of my actor and I'm trying to know when he reaches a next level. I can just say, hey, on stat full, was that stat experience? I'm going to say, hey, level up, for instance. And this is called on every machine. So everywhere in multiplayer is going to receive these events. So I think that's it. I'm just going to check another time. On stat added and stat ready, we covered that. Stat full, yep, we covered. And the other two there are Unreal dispatchers. And these are the dispatchers we saw, the dispatchers to set up the stat manager. So that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.